Men escapes alleged 20 years of captivity using hand sanitizer and printer paper. All right, this is a suggestion via Discord. Let's go ahead and jump into this.
Emergency crews in the U.S. state of Connecticut made a
What is
disturbing discovery last month
Connecticut.
while responding to a house fire. At the property, they found a middle-aged woman and her 32-year-old stepson who claimed he'd been kept secret his entire life and revealed startling allegations of abuse. CNN's Gene Casares has the story.
33 years of law enforcement, this is the worst treatment of humanity that I've ever witnessed.
When authorities were called to a home on fire, they were looking for anyone who may be trapped inside.
God. Officers and fire investigators quickly realized that there was a room in the house that appeared to have locks on it from the exterior portion of the house.
A 32-year-old man was locked inside that room.
They began to speak to the male victim, who disclosed that he was being held captive in the house for an extended period of time.
The man was treated for smoke inhalation, and police say he admitted to setting the fire to gain his...
Wait. 32-year-old man weighed about 68 pounds when discovered. 32-year-old man weighed 68 pounds when discovered last month. Held captive for 2 decades. What?
Freedom.
I want to see him, guys.
He also told them he'd been held captive for more than 20 years by his stepmother since he was about 11 years old.
11.
He said he was only fed 2 sandwiches and 2 cups of water a day. Authorities say he was held in an 8 by 9 foot storage room with no heat or air conditioning, and he suffered serious physical consequences.
I can imagine.
According to a police affidavit, the 32-year-old is 5 feet 9 inches tall and just 68.7.
Hold on, guys. Wait. I'm guessing male victim 1, MV1 probably, continued to speak with staff about his situation, which was consistent with what he had initially stated to officers. MV1 stated that he's the one that set the fire because he states, "I wanted my freedom." He stated he's been locked into the room. He locked in a room since he was 11 years old. Staff notes that at this point, MV1 is fully oriented. His thoughts are clear. He is absent of, okay. As staff continues to speak to MV1, he talks with a constricted. I can imagine that he is probably not like all there. He's going to need help consistently. I'm not sure he'll ever be a functioning member of society. I hope the best for this man, absolutely, but I just don't know how good he's going to be for the public.
Pounds.
There's a lot of physical therapy that he'll have to go through. There's a lot of
mental
healing that he'll have to go through.
According to law enforcement, authorities went to the home twice in April of 2004. The first visit was a welfare check requested by the Department of Children and Families.
Officers went to the house. The house was clean. It was lived in. They spoke to the victim at that point in time, and there were no cause for any alarm.
Later that month, the family attempted to file harassment charges because the school district continued reporting the family to DCF.
Good.
The affidavit says after that, his stepmother pulled him out of school.
It's just unfathomable that anyone could treat someone this way.
The alleged victim says he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom and instead had to use bottles and newspaper. His stepmother, Kimberly Sullivan, was arrested on charges of assault, second-degree kidnapping,
that's it,
and first-degree unlawful restraint.
Everything in me, based off of our legal system, says that she's probably gonna get like 2 months in prison, bro. If it was a guy, it would be life.
Her attorney says the allegations against her are not true.
Absolutely not true. He was not locked in a room. She did not restrain him in any way.
Oh, yeah?
She provided food. She provided shelter.
Right.
She is blown away by these allegations.
Oh, yeah? I don't believe
Gene
it.
Casares, CNN, New York.
Guys, what?
32 years old, just 68 pounds, and 20 years in captivity, allegedly. An emaciated Connecticut man's physical appearance
allegedly.
so horrifying and shocking that his uncle told police, quote, "He looks like a Holocaust survivor." How did he get to this point? Who knew? And why are we just hearing about this now?
Right.
Well, the man who officials are calling male victim 1
MV1
tells police that the last time he left his family property was when he was 14 or 15 to dispose of yard waste with his dad. He says his dad and stepmom starved him and physically abused him since he was a child. And that things got so bad, he started stealing, eating from the garbage, and drinking toilet water. Then came the alleged confinement, a punishment, he says, for sneaking food. But things got even worse just over 1 year ago when his dad died. His stepmother allegedly became even more restrictive, deadbolting him in an 8 by 9 foot room where he says he would stay for 22 to 24 hours a day. I want you to look at this next photograph carefully. You're looking at the inside of the home.
Like, listen, I see that, then I see how she's dressed. I'm thoroughly confused. All right. I'm thoroughly confused, guys. All right. She looks very well put together, but I mean, generally you can't judge someone based off of how well they put themselves together, let's say for the public. You see a glimpse into their home and you're like, oh my God.
Where it all allegedly took place. It may be the only glimpse we get into the space where male victim 1 allegedly suffered these abuses. It's also the home he set fire to last month. He says he was done and used printer paper, hand sanitizer, and a stolen lighter to light that fire and finally get authorities' attention.
How do you get the lighter? Wait a second, guys. How do you get the lighter? I'm not listen. I'm not going to go ahead and shame the person who has been locked away. But how do you get a lighter? If he was locked in a room, where did the lighter come from, guys? Because I mean, wouldn't he have? If that was the case, if he was in that room for all these years, then, or I guess for the last year at least, then he would have had access to that lighter the entirety of the time, no? If he was never allowed to leave this room. I don't know, but that kind of concerns me, either way.
Now his stepmother is facing charges of assault, kidnapping, and cruelty, but she denies any wrongdoing.
Of course she does.
The lawyer saying, my client maintains her innocence and looks forward to clearing her name.
I hope she never clears her name. But I also know the legal system again. I think that this is one of these instances where life in prison should be the number one thing, right? Yeah, she should never be allowed outside of her cell. I think that'll be great for her. Okay, but either way.
For more on this, let's bring in the mayor of Waterbury, Connecticut, where all of this took place, Paul Pernaruski. Mayor, thank you for joining us. I do want to play some of what the police chief had to say today. Listen.
33 years of law enforcement, this is the worst treatment of humanity that I've ever witnessed. It was worse than the conditions of a jail cell.
Wow.
What more are you learning tonight about the conditions of this victim?
Wow.
I mean, the conditions were just deplorable. As the chief said, it was a small area. He was held in 9 feet by 8 feet. The windows wouldn't open, the door locked from the outside. It was a dormer room. The ceiling sloped down, so there's issues around that. He was allowed out for about between 2 hours and 15 minutes in that range once a day.
Okay.
Was fed 2 bottles of water and 2 sandwiches a day. That's all.
That's how we got the lighter.
He had to rig a makeshift way to drain the urine out of the bottles that he had in the room while he was in there. So it's unfathomable to think of what he went through.
And this is somebody who's 32 years old now. I mean, the arrest warrant in that he alleges that he was held captive in that house since he was 11. But he remembers the abuse going back to when he was just 3 years old. I mean, how were they able to possibly hide this alleged abuse for so many years?
Well, he was withdrawn from school when he was going into 4th grade, when he was about 11 years old. He was homeschooled, and there's really no connection between the city or the state and families that are being homeschooled here in Connecticut. There was a lot of psychological and, other intimidation that went on with him. When people came to the house, he was told to be quiet. They rarely had any visitors. And I think over time, his stepmother was telling him that, if he behaved himself, she would try to let him out more. So she kind of was able to control him that way as well.
And you kept a grown man at 68 pounds, right? I mean, you were able to and emaciated, right? Keep this in mind here. So you were able to, handle his strength, let's say. So yeah, she completely controlled him, guys. And it probably didn't even take much strength on his part. It was just all mental by this time, guys. This is absolutely psychotic.
From the time he was 11, he doesn't remember ever leaving the house except for one incident when he was about 12 years old, when he accompanied his father to the dump to dispose of some leaves. But the rest of the time he was locked in that room, except for, about 2 hours a day, sometimes only 15 minutes a day did he get out.
I can't even contemplate this level of cruelty.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, it's thinking about, I have elementary school students, children myself, and the idea of all the many steps that must have failed this person. I mean, the victim's former elementary school principal is speaking out, saying that the school notified the Department of Children and Family Services on several occasions. Listen.
We knew it, we reported it, not a damn thing was done. That's the tragedy of the whole thing. Everyone really was concerned with this child since he was 5 years old. You knew something was wrong. It was grossly wrong. Sorry we couldn't do more because...
Falling through the cracks.
You went through more than any of us ever will go through in our lives.
Wow.
Bring tears to your eyes. Think about that. And in the arrest warrant affidavit, the victim states that Child Services visited the home twice, and he was told to tell them everything was okay.
Fine. Yeah.
Mayor, how could something like this be missed?
Oh, no.
We do know they were called twice. That was the point at which he ended up being homeschooled. So that's when he withdrew from the system. There was no more connection with him. At one point, shortly after he was homeschooled, we do know that some of his former classmates were concerned because they didn't see him any longer. They called DCF. They contacted the Waterbury Police Department. We sent an officer out to visit the home. He talked to the child, and he came back and reported that everything was okay. And then after that, it just sort of fell through the cracks or fell out of the anyone's notice at that point and continued on. So I do think that we've made some strides in the last 20 years for reporting requirements and things where people would notice these things. And, I think anyone who knows or is concerned something's going on ought to, feel comfortable in reporting it. It's better to report something and have it turn out not to be true than to allow something like this to go on for 20 years because you're not sure what to do about it.
Yeah, guys, that doesn't work. I definitely wish it worked. Right? I definitely wish that if a kid was going through something, that they could be taken out of that situation, but that does not work. Like, I'm recently going through something specifically with, I generally don't speak about these type of things, right? But I'm generally been going through something with my daughter. I just got custody of my daughter because of something similar to what's happening here, right? Just absolute abject abuse, right? So we're talking about like CPS or like Department of Family Services, whatever they're called in your state, regularly going to the house and then her and her siblings being told to lie consistently. Like, you make it so that these systems, they make it so it's so hard to actually help the child because you ask the parent, right? But also at the same time, how can you walk up and just start speaking to the kid? I get that, right? But they're mostly being told to lie, right? If something happens, lie. And if that's your only metric to get that kid into safety, right? If that's the only thing that you need, then you have to find a way to speak to the kid without the parent there, right? Because most likely their whole life they've been threatened about, if you talk, you're going to end up in foster care. Because that's basically my daughter's current story, right? And luckily I've been able to kind of get her out of that scenario finally, after she finally said a glimpse of what was actually going on in her entire life, right? Immediately get her out there immediately. I don't care what do we have to do? Lawyers, right? All of this stuff, right? And this just happened within the last month. So things have been kind of hectic on the back end of the channel because we've just been trying to, make her comfortable within a family and things like that, guys. But this happens more than you think. Okay. 20 years, 68 pounds of absolute craziness, guys. I feel bad for him. I don't even know what can be done for him now. 32 years old? Guys, he's going to have to be like institutionalized, right? Like, he wants his freedom. I get that, right? But who knows how he is as a person? Like, does he have the ability to even function in society? Like, has he signed, let's say, the social contract that everyone has basically signed theoretically? Does he understand how these things work? I don't know, guys. This is a crazy story, bro. This is frustrating to me because so many kids just fall through the cracks because they're being told to lie, bro. They're being told to lie. All right. Guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. This one hit kind of close to home here. All right. But all right. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. All right.